the risk rally post-Macron-Le Pen victory, how long has it got to run?
I think it'll run until the realisation of the parliamentary elections comes around. So the second round, risk markets seem to be largely discounting now because of his 20-point poll lead. That's the lead they think he has against Le Pen, which of course he has not just because of her extreme policies, but also because he's so centrally staged. He's got everyone to the left has been knocked out of the competition, and then he'll also take a decent chunk of the votes to the right. So people are discounting that. We don't think that's quite right. You've still got a couple of weeks. Things can happen in a couple of weeks. You could have a scandal, of course, something along those lines, as well as Le Pen, to some degree, trying to realign herself to get round Macron and onto the far left-wing voters. If you've seen her symbolically disassociating herself with the National Front Party for a couple of weeks while she tries to woo those voters and turn this into an establishment versus the anti-establishment election.
Interesting de-hedging has taken place, which probably accounts for some of the uplift.
Absolutely.
John, is it worth keeping some hedges on? I mean, even with a 20 percentage point increase or difference between the two, should one sustain some of their hedging?
Absolutely. I think the risks now are pretty skewed. So the additional upside, if the second round goes as planned, feels very limited, particularly because then we'll move on to these parliamentary elections and the Assembly. But in the meantime, you've got lots of opportunity for something to happen in that 2-week period that starts to reintroduce risk. In the betting markets, it's around 12%. But you've got to remember that 2 weeks before Trump won, he was at 8% in the betting odds. So actually, you do have to worry when the market gets so on the back of an event like this.
John, I have to ask you, at what point, if not already, are the markets looking past the second round and onto the parliamentary elections? There are 2 rounds of those in June.
Absolutely, and they will be a lot more splintered. So Macron is making a big deal of the fact that having won the presidential election, he'll be able to carry the parliamentary election as well. He'll get enough votes, or realistically, in conjunction with some coalition party and help, then he can get over the line, get a majority, and in that way he can get a proper presidential role. But he has a real risk here that what happens is he can't get a majority and he ends up as a kind of a lame duck president, where actually the Prime Minister sets the legislative agenda, and he is, in the words of someone I was talking to last night, a bit like the Queen.